In the first day of the school year, teachers went out into the park nearby to look for elements of the environment which they could use to stimulate ideas for their classroom setups. They looked at ideas that involved pattern and texture. They looked at ideas that involved beauty, levels and boundaries, color and light, transparency and reflection. Their goal was to stimulate the learning spaces for the children so their senses would be ignited. Here, teachers have created a texture wall for the children so that they can encounter opportunities to utilize their senses of touch and their enjoyment of the visual aspects of color that are connected to the nearby park and the seasons. In this case, a modular structure was designed to replicate islands in a nearby park, which children can use to create their own scenarios of play and interaction with nature. Mirrors can be used to enhance shelving where natural materials can be stored and interacted with. In one classroom, teachers took children to the park every day where they gathered resources and brought them back to the classroom to integrate into their play. The idea of reflection was found in a unique placement of a mirror which looks down upon this space. They used branches and bark and other berries to transform their loft into a tree house for squirrels. Here, a special mirror above a sink allows a child to check in with themselves as they take a drink of water. Alternative methods for creating space with interesting light were experimented with. Here, lights liven up an area where children create magical potions. Rather than shopping for them at the teacher store, teachers create with children their own numeral and number cards, further embedding the children in their learning and connecting them to the materials they work with, both in the park and out. Children use drawing materials to create rec and rec boards to keep track of who comes to school and learn mathematical concepts. Classroom schedule charts are created using real pictures from the classroom. Children create and maintain their own homemade portfolio boxes. Beauty is everywhere to be seen within the school. Collections are everywhere. It becomes close to impossible for parents not to want to participate and be part of this. From what was once a blank canvas, parents have created a beautiful mosaic for their children to walk through as they enter into their school. The 100 Languages of Children, a poem by Loris Malaguzzi. No way, the 100 is there. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages, 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking. 100, always 100, ways of listening, of marveling, of loving, 100 joys, for singing and understanding, 100 worlds to discover, 100 worlds to invent, 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages and 100 more, but they steal 99. The school and the culture separate the head from the body. They tell the child to think without hands, to do without head, to listen and not to speak, to understand without joy, to love and to marvel only at Easter and Christmas. They tell the child to discover the world already there, and of the 100 they steal 99. They tell the child that work and play, reality and fantasy, science and imagination, sky and earth, reason and dreams are things that do not belong together. And thus they tell the child that the 100 is not there. The child says, "No way, the 100 is there." Children began to integrate paint and arts materials with the natural materials to create unique interpretive theories which led to a study of negative space. Posters were created to honor the work of the children in their discovery of negative space through their curiosity of interacting with the natural materials of the park. Children exploring color go way beyond naming colors, but creating their own shades of each color and connecting them to the natural world around them. Here, through the language of clay, children create their favorite characters, utilizing small muscle skills, planning, trial and error, and the enjoyment of creating something important to them from scratch. Here, through the language of drawing, ideas of identity converge with materials and result in a child's images being mapped as they move from month to month. I encourage you to take a look at the complexity of each picture as they grow. In particular, watch the hair. And color emerge and detail. Imagine the pride the parent has as they look and wait for each new graphic to emerge. Children take their cameras to the park and find beauty everywhere, which is brought back into the classroom to share with peers and to use in their studies. In this piece of documentation, a parent spent time in the classroom studying how children use their hands. As she studied the images, she said that, "In my experience, I learned many things. Children focused and thought about what they had to do on the movement of their hands. The imagination they have is amazing. The imagination they have is great. I realized that before acting on the activity they thought first and then began acting and focused carefully on the work they did." Parent volunteers spent hours in the classrooms looking at the role of materials and of documentation, thinking about the environment and the role of the parents in the school, and finally thinking about projects, long-term studies, and indeed the image they and we have of their children. To help parents take part and encourage them to be one with the children in the school. Each day at the center starts with 15 minutes of parents reading to their children. So I have 2 books to recommend that work well to help children think about family and family dynamics. One, What Daddies Do Best by Laura Numeroff, or What Mommies Do Best by Laura Numeroff is a Simon & Schuster publication. Love is a Family, about a single parent family, also available in Spanish as El Amor es la Familia, is a teaching strategies publication. For teachers who think about introducing materials to their children through books, Henry's Scissors by Jeanette Winter is a wonderful exploration of Matisse and is published by Beach Lane. And for bringing the natural world into the classroom, 2 books, Roxy Monroe's Busy Builders and Incredible Insects, the first published by Cavendish and the second by Playback, provide beautiful photography and drawing of insects, something that we encourage children to use as they explore aspects of these animals. The following are inspirations our staff uses and I would highly recommend for anyone wishing to transform their learning environments. First, there is Designs for Living and Learning, Transforming Early Childhood Environments by Deb Curtis and Margie Carter, and that's Red Leaf Press. Full of pictures, full of ideas, full of images from schools in the United States. The second is Insights and Inspiration from Reggio Emilia, Stories of Teachers and Children from North America, edited by Leila Gandini, in collaboration with Reggio teachers and Reggio educators. This book also shows fine examples of learning environments throughout the United States. Finally, Loose Parts, Inspiring Play in Young Children by Lisa Daly and Miriam Belaglovsky on Red Leaf Press. This one gives a great idea for the materials that you can collect and utilize as one of the many, many languages for young children to communicate with.